Welcome to Getting to Know You, Stonebridge residents and staff. And today I am delighted to be with another resident, and it's continuing our focus in April on the environment. And so DK Sachdev, I think, has some things to tell us about the environment, which I would say is writ large. As you know, we talked first with Dave McAlpin about what was done here locally to protect our environment. Then we had the Trailblazers tell us about how to appreciate the environment. And now we're going to take a look at, I guess it might be called the big picture. I'm so pleased that you're here with me, DK, if I may call you DK.
Yes,
and I know that when you first came to Stonebridge, you did a presentation on your concern with that big picture, which I am calling climate change, because I know that's what you're concerned about. So in the spirit of getting to know you, we sort of ask our guests, well, what did you do before you came to Stonebridge? What would you like to tell us about your professional life or your childhood, whatever you pick?
Thank you, Ingrid. It's very kind of you to invite me here, and I'll try to answer directly. Well, if I maybe I can start with my very early childhood, because there is a part relevant to your topic.
Okay.
When I was around 10 years old and my sister was 12 years old, I think my father used to frequently tell me that you can never afford to annoy Mother Earth, or Mother Nature, as we call it. And he said Mother Earth has a way of keeping the population stable by periodically having floods and earthquakes and plagues. He himself was an orphan from a village, because his parents had passed away, and then his uncle took him away to bring him up. So he had a first-hand impression. He says, never be grateful to the earth, because everything we get is from the earth.
Right. I like the Mother Earth,
yes, and I think
feminist approach there.
And that topic has come back many times now. Even as you probably know, Thomas Friedman writes appropriately Mother Nature very often. So he was explaining to us that you have to be very careful, because everything we have comes from the earth. Because we were vegetarian and we were growing vegetables and all that. And he didn't refer to the vegetarian part, but that's what he meant. So you must respect it. And that's the nature's way of keeping the population under control. And he said after the turn of the century, because this was just when the British were leaving India from, and partition was happening, there was a lot of turmoil. That's when he used to talk to us to teach some basic lessons. So that keeps on coming back to me now. And now last year, I'm sure you've seen it, and I send you a copy of that. The video, short video on that we are guests.
Yes.
I'm
going to ask
it resonates very closely to what he was to say.
Our talented recorder here is going to put it on after this stuff.
And that, anyways, I'll hold my comment on that till you do it.
No, I just wanted to sort of use that as a clue to our listeners.
Normally I would not have remembered it, but when I saw this video, which is so beautifully made, it reminded me that this is exactly what my father used to say. But the video put it in a different way, that if you not behaving it, you can leave. You are our guests. Us will go on forever.
Yes.
Us will go on forever. And if you behave, you are our guests. You can stay here. We are not the masters. You are guests. That's the wording there.
I actually picked that up from watching it.
So that's what I think drives home into me. And then moving forward, you asked me in the beginning part, I went to schooling in New Delhi, where I was born, and I went to one school alone, and surprisingly, I'm not trying to take pride in anything, but I was a good student, and it so happened when the school in those days was stopping at 11th grade, not in 12th grade, I was first in the whole state. And so it was an honor for my father to have a child do this. But that very year, there was a minimum age limit
Uh-huh.
of the university of 16 years. I was 15 years and 8 months, and they won't let me in.
So we had to figure out what you
So
did for
I
4 months.
So I went to different cities out of Delhi. At the age less than 16-year-old, I went to a hostel in Banaras, and then we went to Allahabad, where we did, and that's where I was changing my mind. My father wanted me to become, since my educational performance was good, to become an executive like the British used to be, because he worked under them for 40 years. And he wanted me to be like that. So he said, you should join administrative service. I said, no, Dad, I want to be engineer. Constant struggle we had between us. So we changed mind 2-3 times.
Yeah.
So after finishing Banaras, we went to Allahabad to finish my graduation, undergraduate, what we call it in this country now. I was going his path. But after that, in the summer vacations, I begged him, Dad, I want to go to engineering. So I went to Bangalore, the premier college in those days, in engineering and science, Institute of Science, and that's where I graduated from. So I finished my education and then joined the telecommunications service in India, worked in that department for 20 years. Mostly, it so happened in technology side of the department, not the operations side. They went on putting me in technology side, and eventually I was general manager of a R&D group, which got formed very quickly and got some name in the country. And that's what probably led to when the nomination request came from Washington. About the same time frame, just to give you the calendar, the first geostationary satellite was launched in 1963.
So satellites became your...
Well, indirectly, because I had very little dealing with satellites. As you know, satellites enhanced telecommunications. Now they do different things. In those days, the biggest demand for telecommunication was that long distance communication quality was horrible.
Right.
High frequency communications, fading and all that, very expensive.
Right.
It was not something everybody could have. Only government and business people could have long distance phone calls. So when that satellite, which was placed at the height of 36,000 kilometers above the earth, where it moves as if it is stationary. It is not stationary, but it's moving at the same speed as Earth.
Okay. Explain about the satellite. The satellite is really important in your thinking today. I mean, for
It has evolved. It has evolved so very quickly, not to bore you
bring
with
us
long
up to
history.
that point, yeah.
At that point, the satellites were very low power compared to what we have now. 10 watts as compared to 10,000 watts now. So all they could do was to send a signal to a very large dish, 30-meter diameter, to say one dish per country. That's how it was.
Oh, I see. Okay.
But that was enough to give long-distance communications of excellent quality every country in the world.
Yes.
And that's what the consortium was set up for, non-profit consortium. So they wanted to, after some experience, they said this will grow. And simultaneously, other domestic systems were also coming. It's not that we were not the only one, but we were the only operating one, and the biggest one at that time. So this is where they sent out nominations for all positions they wanted to fill internationally as much as possible, because it's an international consortium. So for the technology head, they sent out a flyer, and after a lot of hesitation, I didn't want to leave because I was enjoying my job very much. But my friend said, no, this is a good opportunity for you and your family. Accept it for some years. If you don't like it, come back. So I thought there's no chance I'll be selected, because I had not built any satellites. All I had done was built one earth station for the Indian operator.
Out of one, many.
So I had no expectation of being selected, because there was a beautiful laboratory in ComSat, in Washington area, ComSat, who had so many brilliant, world-famous scientists. So I said, I have no chance of getting it. But when I came for interview to Washington in '78, I think they found that I was far more familiar with international performance standards than anybody they had in the labs. And they wanted to have an international flavor, so I was selected.
There you are.
So they had expanded after a few years to a role to build actual programs.
Right.
So I became in charge of programs. I did many programs, and that took me to accidentally to experience with NASA, because one of our satellites was lost in launching. It was wrongly launched by the rocket, and so we appealed to the shuttle people. At that time they were operating. This was April 1990, and so I negotiated with them that, look, we want to save this satellite, and which would have meant that you come out of the shuttle bay, hold the satellite, bring it back to the shuttle, and launch it. And it was a risky venture,
Right.
and we paid the top price they wanted, and ended up a success with a lot of details. So this is where I think your question earlier to me was that what's the linkage?
Yes.
The basic linkage is the technology is similar between NASA and commercial power
Right,
satellites, but the applications are quite different. Most of the applications, all the application satellites are going around the Earth at different altitudes.
Right.
There are something like 5,000 now. But the NASA uses the similar technology to go deep space, to go to moon and go to Mars and even beyond now. So they do a really high quality product. Ours is a product which has to meet the market pricing. It cannot be.
Yeah.
So that's where I did several programs. I think we created a standard which industry follows till today, and then so now maybe I'm giving you too long a description.
No, I think we're ready to say, so having had that experience of the very practical, limited satellite, and then seeing our Earth from far away,
Exactly.
must have done something to you.
Yeah, no. What happened was that I came across. I became familiar with the Hubble telescope, and Hubble telescope was enabling traveling back in time. You know, if you can get a signal from very far away, that signal might have been generated 1 million years ago, 1 billion years ago, but it looks like to you it's today.
Yeah.
So if you can calibrate your system, you can say, this is coming from 10 billion years ago. So this is how the universe was 10 billion years ago. At that time, I read about this new telescope which will be launched this year probably, James Webb Telescope, which will, if everything goes well, it works outside the visible light frequencies. It's a very exotic technology, taken 12 years or 15 years to build it, and it's all ready to go now. And that satellite will be able to see if physics theory is correct, when the universe started from a point source, which was, to be exact, 13.72 billion years ago. And that's got me involved in this. This is why. This is remarkable. And then that led to related articles of how we are not looking after. Because, or let me back off. If you look at the total universe picture, there are something like 1 billion galaxies. Each galaxy has something like 1 billion stars. Our sun is one of the stars in one of the galaxies. It has 8 planets, only one is suitable for life. That's ours. Now, life was created relatively recently in Earth. The Earth itself is 6 billion years old. And the, mammals and all came earlier from little microbe. They grew and grew and grew. And the chimpanzees stood up as human beings in about 2.5 million years ago. It's like 5 minutes ago.
Right.
It's almost like that compared to the total time frame.
Right.
So that's what got me thinking and reading some of the review articles, that we are a very small part of the history of the universe. And if you mess it up, this life will disappear forever. And if there is life is nowhere else, if life is nowhere else in the world, the universe will never see what life is. It will only see rocks and lights traveling here and there from various rocks.
Yeah.
Which
If you believe that it's not out there somewhere
and
else.
to the extent, you know, you must have heard of Stephen Hawking,
Yeah.
the scientist who was chair similar to me.
Yeah.
You know, but in England he was far more brilliant, but his chair was similar to my chair.
Right.
So he died in, I think, 2018.
Yeah, just
His
recently.
last book
Yeah.
was published posthumously, and I've quoted in my talk here. And there he clearly said that he is no hope, that this we will survive global
Right.
warming, and therefore we must settle in Mars to preserve the human species. So that in the universe, you can't go to Venus, which is the next one, because it's too hot.
Yeah.
Mars is little further away, but it is too little atmosphere. We are the luckiest people to have an atmosphere which saves us from the bad radiation of the sun.
Now, can I jump ahead?
Yes, please.
Because I know.
I talk too much.
No. I just want to make sure that in this time that we have together and that we have this serious problem to solve, you told me that you give your children advice about what they should do to be cooperative in making sure that life continues here, that they respect climate change.
Not seriously, but I share with them what I learned.
Okay, so
I
can
think
you share with us?
I'm fortunate. Yeah, that's what I think. So I move on.
Yeah.
Right now, I think yes. I think the key point is today there is a pool of knowledge from different scientists. It started seriously in US in 1984 when Hansen of scientists make a presentation to Congress. He was absolutely spoke up frankly what the hell is going on.
Yeah.
It was very harsh language he used. People and he said what kind of foolishness we are doing. We are going to destroy this planet. At the time, the forecast was that this will happen thousands of years from now. 10 years later, the forecast was it will be 5,000 years ago. Today, the forecast is if you don't do it in the next 20 years, you can never do it. It will be overtaken. It will be beyond control.
Right.
It will be beyond control, it's gone. So we have a little time. And the fundamental problem is, and that's where I want to share with you, which I briefly said last year, is that we are a wonderful democracy. Many countries are democracies. Democracies have elections. And elections only allow you to do short-term things. If you want to do something long-term, which is not benefiting the people in the next 4 years, you will lose elections. So most decision makers understand it, but they dare not take a long-term decision. And especially companies like oil companies and coal companies are so powerful. Our Supreme Court has said you can put any amount of money behind any senator. So it's a kind of legalized corruption, which we have. I mean, with all respect, I want to say, I don't want to criticize it, just want to say it's kind of legalized corruption. The companies are able to corrupt our representatives without being visible. So they are able to make a particular decision. That's why we cannot ban the guns, and that's why we are not doing serious work on environment. That's what worries me, that we need a long-term decision. Many presidents, Obama and now Biden, gives us some hope, but they're going to be up against a brick wall. Right now, we couldn't even pass one single resolution on environment and gun control. This is the challenge in all democracies. The elections are necessary. I'm not recommending autocracy or dictatorship, no. But this is a fundamental problem. This is a long-term problem. And very soon it will be no longer long-term and you can't control it. It's going to be so bad. Just to give you an example, the pictures I showed last year about the snow melting in Greenland, Iceland, and the ice caps, is much more today, much more today. And last week there was an article saying that if all of Greenland melts, the sea levels will rise 23 feet. And even if they rise 5 feet more, many islands will disappear. More dangerously, there will be a huge migration from shores to inland, because all societies got established near water, and everybody liked to be in edge of the country to have water, unlimited water. And so they had to migrate. So the migrations we are seeing today here and from Africa to Europe is nothing compared to what can happen. We have huge migration of millions of people. They have nowhere to go. In my personal view, I'm not politically familiar with Latin America. Many of the migrants today coming here are not necessarily because of corrupt government, but because the land has stopped producing enough crop. Africa, definitely that's the reason.
Right.
The land has become arid, it cannot grow anything, and so people have to move out and go to more inland where there is more space. So we are going to see huge migrations as a minimum. Secondly, just to give you a real example, after that famous flood in New York, forget the name of that recently, but last 5-6 years ago or 8 years ago, there was a storm, serious storm, and a lot of areas got flooded.
Right.
My daughter's beach house was in trouble.
Wall Street.
She had one beach house in New Jersey was flooded, and she had a lot of damage on their house. So now they're building a wall just for
Right.
Long Island.
Yeah.
You know the cost of the wall? $65 billion, and it will take 25 years to build it. It's just a small part. Now imagine building a wall across the entire United States.
Yeah.
We cannot do it.
Right.
So we got to prevent it from happening.
So it sounds like you're really saying we all have to be politically active and elect people.
And it's not many things. Oil, anything coming out of oil. See, there are many things come out of the soil, like vegetables. 15 years you can recycle. Everything can be recycled less than 15 years. It took millions of years of pressure to create oil in the earth and coal. So this is a non-replaceable commodity out of the earth we are taking out, and it's going to end one day. So we have to accelerate as much as possible, not using only renewable energy. And those kind of things, if we do, we postpone and get more and more time. But it has to be a long-term plan. A government's change, plans should not change. This plan should not change. A government can change any other plan, not this plan. And we can do it. Even now, this time, not much time, but we can do it. Because there is so much knowledge,
Right.
so much technology available. And the batteries, for example, you hear a lot about electric cars. Those batteries we first used on satellites. In fact, I was the first one to build a satellite, taking the risk of putting lithium-ion batteries on a satellite. And that was a very beginning. And so the technology is developing. We have some really rich people like Elon Musk and Bezos from Amazon putting a lot of money in this technology, a tremendous amount of money they're putting in satellite and rocket technology right now. They are willing to do all those things. They want to go to Mars not just as an adventure or an achievement, but to save humanity. Something what Stephen Hawking said. So it is not many things we have to worry about, but whatever we choose, it's a long-term plan. Any government, Republican or Democrat or XYZ, will not change it. That's what we need. That's why the Paris Agreement was a good start.
Right.
But they don't have muscle. They don't have a muscle. There's no commitment. There is an aspiration. There's no commitment in that. We need an international agreement like the little satellite agreement I was telling you about, a much bigger agreement. There is a commitment of the governments. It doesn't matter what kind of government you have, you have national commitment that America will contribute this, period.
Well,
that's what we need.
Well, as I wanted you to tell us what we need, but I think I'm also hearing that if we have the knowledge about what you were telling me now, that it's a very short-term thing.
Yeah.
What I, as a parent, and maybe you as a grandparent, and I'm a grandparent also,
Of course.
need to say to our kids who can vote, don't vote for anybody until you hear their commitment to a plan that we know we can implement to save our planet.
But there is one problem there. If both sides of an election are thinking short term, you have no choice to. You cannot do it. One of them has to risk his career. One of the candidate has to risk his career with a long-term plan, and you are saying vote for him. No candidate will do it because every candidate needs money to have election.
All right.
Money comes from firms which have short-term objectives.
Right.
All companies want to maintain their profit as much as possible. Whole companies want to maintain their profit as possible. But that's what, if there is a commitment on a national level that we will not let this happen. Why? Because we are the only species in the whole of universe which is far, far bigger than us, and 15 billion years old, and which will disappear, and history will say humanity never existed. Do we want that? Or you want to do something about it?
Well, the do something about it is...
Very few things, but we must commit to them.
Yeah.
Must commit.
Right.
It's like you tell everybody do exercise every day, you will be healthy. That's that kind of thing. Don't drop it. About Republican or what, you don't drop that. Do exercise. Do therapy.
Right. So don't you stop talking and thinking about this, and you will be arming many other people to think about this.
We are in a retirement home. We are at a stage where we have to inspire the next generation.
Right.
And that's what your point is, which is very important.
And we need to enlist as many voters as we can to hold the people who want to represent us to a long-range plan for saving the world for us.
And I think we have...
Listen to your father.
we have, if you go take a vote in this center, you will get 100% people in saving the climate, because we all have children and grandchildren and great-grandchildren, and we want to do our duty. But the fundamental cycle, election cycle, where your winning depends upon the money given to you, forces you to support short-term decisions, which the corporations want. If you say, no, commit to a program which will take 20 years and so many billion, they will not. But I think eventually they will.
I think.
But the clock is running out on that. It's not. We don't have any more time for dwindling about it.
Right.
We might not do the exact right thing. We might make a mistakes here and there. Some money may get wasted. But we keep going.
Right.
Keep going.
Right. We need to provide that kind of energy.
Exactly.
Thank you so much for talking with me today and talking to the residents and friends of Stonebridge, reminding us what a wonderful world we live in, and we really don't want it to go away.
And we are unique in the universe.
Right. Yeah. So thank you so much, and I hope we keep talking and voting the right way and persuading other people. Thank you for your knowledge and your commitment.
I thank you for doing a good work, and I feel honored that you located me and invited me. It's an honor to me.
Well, we feel honored that you took the time to be with us.
You.
So we're both honored, right? All right, we'll close this for today. We'll close our emphasis on the environment for the month of April. I hope you'll stay tuned. Thank you for Jock McFarland for recording this. And of course, thank you, Day Key.
Thank you. It was a pleasure.
And we will see you in the month of May. I'm Ingrid Reed. Thanks for listening.